heavy or lightweight? Which works better for muscle growth? That's exactly the question that we're going to answer in this video, and the results might actually shock you. The weight that you choose for any given exercise is often one of the hardest things to do when it comes to weightlifting. Should I continue doing 15s on bicep curls that I can complete with perfect form? Or should I bump up the weight to 25, sacrifice my form in order to overload my muscles more? This is a question that many people have, and this is a loaded topic for sure, but we're gonna go one step at a time and see what the current research has to say about it. A great place to start a discussion is looking at a 2021 research article looking at loading recommendations for muscle strength, hypertrophy, and endurance. But our focus is going to be on the muscle building or hypertrophy aspects from this study. They take a look at the traditionally accepted repetition scheme, which is 8 to 12 reps per set at 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max to optimize hypertrophic gains. And just to clarify, hypertrophy is a synonym for muscle gains. However, when they reviewed the literature, they came across several articles finding hypertrophic effects with loads less than 60% of their 1 rep max. Concluding their literary dive, they found that similar whole muscle growth can be achieved across a wide spectrum of loading ranges as long as it's greater than 30% of their 1 rep max. So what's the main takeaway from this article? There is no ideal hypertrophy zone. So throw the 8 to 12 reps at a moderate intensity into the trash and do as many reps and sets as you can, right? Well, not necessarily. We need to keep reading to find the true takeaway of this article. They stated that from a practical standpoint, a case can be made that moderate loads provides the most efficient means to achieve muscle development, given that light load training involves performing many more repetitions compared to heavier loads, in terms of increasing the time spent training. And adding to this point, recent research actually suggests that heavy load training requires more sets to achieve comparable muscle growth to moderate loads. Not only is this inefficient from a time standpoint, but the heavy loads with high training volumes heightens joint-related stresses and increases the potential for overtraining. So by this logic, we're back to the 8 to 12 reps at the 60 to 80% of our 1 rep max, right? Yes, but hang with me because there's a lot more that goes into muscle growth than just the weight that you perform the exercise with. And with that wording, I think you can assume what the next thing I'm alluding to is: form. This leads us to the next article that we're going to look at, which is a 2020 systematic review looking at the effects of range of motion on muscle development during resistance training exercises. A systematic review looks at all the current published research and forms recommendations on the best evidence on a specific topic. Basically, it's the gold standard in terms of research. Lower body musculature was observed, and the studies compared full range of motion to partial range of motion. Concluding their analysis, they found that full range of motion offers advantageous effects for muscle growth compared to partial range of motion up to a certain threshold. So if we take a look at the squat, for example, squatting to parallel is the goal, but achieving extreme amounts of knee and hip flexion may not increase the amount of muscle growth any further. Now, it would be ignorant of me to assume that everyone can achieve full range of motion on any given exercise, especially for people with arthritis or any kind of joint pain. However, you should move through the full range of motion that you have available to optimize the results that you see. And this principle goes hand in hand with ego lifting. Ego lifting is one of my biggest pet peeves, and it's when you see people choosing a weight way heavier than they can handle or use to perform proper form. Not only are you using momentum, but this significantly increases your risk of injury. Even recording that video that you just watched of me ego lifting hurt my back a little bit. The things that I do for you guys. So long story short, never compensate your form for the weight that you're performing the exercise with. I promise you this is going to take you so much further in the long run. So right now, we know that if we want to optimize muscle growth, we need to aim for 8 to 12 reps at 60 to 80% of our 1 rep max through full range of motion with proper form. So this is surely the best way to optimize muscle growth, right? Really close, but there's one other principle that we need to optimize to take our muscle growth to the next level. However, before we discuss what that is, if you're enjoying the video so far, please be sure to subscribe for more fitness videos and content just like this. Okay, now let's go over what the last variable is. And the thing that I'm referring to is the tempo that we perform each exercise with. How fast or slow we perform any given exercise with will affect the time under tension the muscle experiences. Now, what is time under tension? It refers to the total amount of time a muscle or muscle group is activated during a set. It makes complete sense that the tempo that we perform the exercise with is going to affect the tension or stress placed on the muscle. But how long should each rep take? And should we go slower on the way up or the way down? Let's take a deeper look into this. According to the International Sports Sciences Association, we should alter time under tension depending on our goal at the gym. If your goal is strength training, you should aim for less than or equal to 20 seconds per set. For muscle growth, we should aim to be in the range of 20 to 70 seconds per set. And anything above 70 seconds transitions you into endurance training. So that answers the first question, but what phase of the exercise do we need to prolong in order to facilitate muscle growth? Hold on for 1 second. Before I answer that, we need to discuss the two phases of any exercise. We have a concentric and eccentric phase. The concentric phase refers to contracting a muscle as it's shortening. So this is the way up on a bicep curl, bench press, and pull-up. And alternatively, we have the eccentric phase, which is contracting the muscle as it lengthens. Some people refer to these as negatives, and using the same exercises, this would be the way down on bicep curls, the bench press, and pull-ups. Study after study has shown that the eccentric phase is where the majority of muscle growth occurs and takes place. Now, this is contrary to what many people assume when it comes to weight training, because we tend to focus so much on the concentric phase. Jumping back to ego lifting, you see many people using momentum for the way up and let gravity return the weight to the starting position, essentially skipping the eccentric phase as a whole. Huge mistake. So knowing this, we should aim to have a longer eccentric phase than concentric phase in any given exercise that we perform. Okay, so that was a lot of information, so let's review and discuss what all this research is actually telling us. If you want to build muscle, you should aim to do the following. Perform sets of 8 to 12 reps at 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max through full range of motion, aiming for 20 to 70 seconds of time under tension while prioritizing the eccentric phase over the concentric phase. My goodness, is that a lot of information. Let me give you a practical example so you can visualize what this actually means instead of a whole bunch of word vomit. Let's say your max bicep curl is 50 pounds. 60 to 80% of that 1 rep max would put us in the range of 30 to 40 pounds. Knowing this, we need to choose a weight in this range to perform 8 to 12 reps with. Cool. Next, we need to aim to perform full range of motion for this exercise, meaning we fully straighten our arm at the bottom, fully bend the arm at the top, and we're not using our hips for momentum to help get the weight up. Now, we know we want to be in the range of 20 to 70 seconds of time under tension with a greater eccentric phase than concentric phase. These two principles go hand in hand, and let's say you take 2 seconds to bring the weight up and 3 seconds to bring the weight down. If you perform 12 reps at this tempo, this will place you at 60 seconds of time under tension. In doing all this, we hit every variable that we were aiming for. Now, I chose bicep curls for this example because it's much easier to visualize, but you can choose any exercise at the gym that you're performing. Whether it's pull-ups, the bench press, squats, you name it, you can implement these principles. As I'm sure you've noticed, there's a lot that goes into muscle growth, but at the end of the day, you need to be consistent. If you only go to the gym 1 time per week, you're ultimately not going to see the results you're hoping for. Get a workout partner if possible to hold you accountable, get into a good rhythm and good routine, and then slowly start implementing these principles. But if you have some weightlifting experience under your belt and you want to learn some strategies to take your lower chest development to the next level, which is an area that so many people struggle with, check out this video now where I go over the best exercises that you can't afford to miss.